Hey everyone, it's Walker. We are about a month away from Milton's new introductory script analysis class. It begins on March 8th, and this is the first time Milton's started a new class in a long time. So this is a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, and space is limited. Spots are filling up fast. So if you're interested, if you want more info, if you want to register today, just send us an email, questionsformilton@gmail.com. I will get back to you, and we'll get you signed up. Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
We had an exercise with Stella when we were working on actions, and it was the action to teach. Did I ever do that with you, Greg, in class? Yeah. And so one of the things that we had to teach was, we had a choice. One of them was how to fly an airplane. Oh, I remember. How to fly an airplane, how to cut a diamond, or how to drive a chariot. Those were the choices we had. And it was so interesting in doing those particular choices because you were now playing. I, of course, was teaching everyone how to drive a chariot. And so, but you were teaching everybody very, very specific things. And it was so much fun. I loved that exercise. That's when I learned about adding a why behind everything. Ron, who was Stella's teaching assistant when I was in class, and when I did it, and I was very, balanced. I knew about the balance and about how to hold the stirrup and what to do with the horse, all of it, and that kind of thing. And so when I finished it, Ron said to me, "Why are you teaching us this?" And I said, "Well, because it's important. I mean, it's important. It's because it's dangerous. And if you're not careful," and he said, "Because what happened when somebody didn't listen to you?" And it was so funny because I turned the dial on that, and suddenly it had an importance it lacked before, because the why behind it was, if you don't listen to me, you could die. And it's not just answering the question. It is a matter of really, you have to believe what you're teaching is that. I know he first asked me who I was talking to, and I said it was a group of extras. But I mean, that was it. It was just like, and so I suddenly realized there's so many places we can go to turn the dial. Because if I say to you, why are you telling us about this vacation you had where you were deposited on the top of a mountain in New Zealand by a helicopter? And if you figure out why you're telling us that, it turns the dial. It turns the dial on it. And it's this kind of odd, I don't know, I keep thinking that it's like, it puts a bottom on things. It invests you in it more. I think that's what you want. I think one of the things we're trying to do is, how do I invest me in this? Even if I'm playing a character. How do I invest me in this so that I have a commitment to it as well? I have a commitment to what's going on. Me, the actor. So I think that's one of the things that I just have to keep stepping back.
Is this what you think Stanislavski meant when he said you work on a subconscious consciously?
Yeah, I think that is part of it. In other words, whatever it is I take underneath it all is going to inform it. It's going to help bring it to life.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I really am humbled that you have responded so well to our podcast. It was Walker's idea, and I fought it, and he assured me that there was a marketplace for it. That was the first chapter. But the interesting thing is he also mentioned that he hears from people all the time who say, you know, I want more, I want more. And obviously there is more. The bonus subscription will allow you to hear the unedited versions of the podcast if you want to go deeper. And then in addition, we're going to start a series of conversations with actors. And I've spoken to my former student, Mark Ruffalo, and Margot Martindale, that I've directed, Chris Carmack, who's now in Grey's Anatomy, Sean Astin, who obviously was in Lord of the Rings. And as a bonus subscriber, you will be able to write in questions.
Other benefits include video episodes, chapters of Milton's next book, and personal audio responses to your acting questions. Sign up today at idon'tneedanactingclass.com.
I call it the why behind the action because it's easier. It's always easier for me. Justification as a concept has always been just more logical for me. If I ask myself, so why am I going out on stage? The answer will often be the action of the scene. What Stella said was the end of an action gives it weight. And because I was not too smart, I always had to come up with a way of stating something in order to help me get there. What I came up with was the catchphrase, in order to. And the in order to, oddly enough, was the why behind the action. So in other words, let's say, as an example, my action may be to clear the air. If I add to it, in order to save my life. Or if I ask the question, why am I trying to clear the air? It's the same thing. It's putting something behind it that I may need. I mean, again, I think these are not always things you need, but certainly what I found doing Glass Menagerie was for JP, who kept talking to the audience, it gave him the why gave him some weight. So I throw that out to you. Does that make sense as a concept? I mean, it always seems to me as if you can just always ask yourself, why am I saying this? Or why am I doing this?
I remember you saying something about the objectives a couple of months ago, I think.
Guy, I've never used the word objective in my entire life.
Yeah, I know, exactly, because you didn't like it. And I was asking something about it. And you said something in the line of, if you're going to ask why, there's a way also that you should ask why. Is it a why that enthralls you? Is it a why that lightens you up? Or is it just answering a question?
Oh, well, look, keeping in mind, I'm never just answering a question. In other words,
yeah, that's what you told us.
Yes, but I mean, it's really important. It's really important that you're never, ever just answering a question when it comes to acting. I mean, I love what Stella said about there is no such action as the action to report, unless you're playing a news commentator, Amanda. So, I mean, but in other words, if you're saying, I mean, it's a very good question, but if you're answering why, the why is not explaining. The why is not reporting. The why also is active.
Milton, is it? I feel like you can't get actions without the why.
It's one. I think so. I mean, it's sort of, but mostly, look, you can. I mean, look, don't get drowned in the vocabulary.
So yeah, and not to get caught up in the language, but the why is kind of the intention behind it.
I don't know.
Would you say the why is the reason why you even open your mouth in the first place?
Yeah. I mean,
wouldn't say things if you didn't have a reason to say them, right?
Yes,
especially in color.
Yeah, that's for sure. Intention is another one of those words I find so boring in acting. It's just like, you're all stuck with what I found boring. But I mean, if somebody said, what's your objective? It didn't just bore me. It just didn't give me anything. I didn't like the word objective. Objective is like, so what's your objective in acting? I want to be a good actor. Well, built into it is maybe I will, maybe I won't. So I never liked the word objective for exactly that reason. It sounded like it sounded like something tepid. It sounded like something, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. And the same thing is intentions. During my many religious searches, I attempted Catholicism for a while. And just because, it was back before they used guitars at masses. I mean, I liked the drag, and I liked the Gregorian chants, and I liked the fact that it was in Latin. I just thought it was really great. And then one day they just changed all of that, and I totally lost interest. But back in the old days, there was this thing that was all part of the Catholic thing, which is for all our intentions. And again, it was just like one of those words that sounded like, it was something you might do, you might not. Well, I intended to do that. So what I liked about the word action, it says I'm doing something. And that to me was the important thing. And the why behind it, I love the idea that it gave it weight. Because here's the thing. I'll tell you something. I mean, and I'll tell you all sorts of things that I've heard throughout the years. And I used to hear it at the Actors Studio, believe it or not. When somebody would say to an actor, the stakes aren't high enough. Periodically, people would say the stakes aren't high enough. You have a logic. I understand what you're talking about, but the stakes aren't high enough. And so what it gave me was it raised the stakes, making it artificial. I mean, for me, raising the stakes always meant I was talking louder. It's like you need to raise the stakes. And so I suddenly go to, have you walked up and down upon the earth lately? I have. The stakes aren't high enough. Have you walked up and down upon the earth lately? And I said, and if they still weren't high enough, the stakes weren't high enough, I'd use a British accent. And then I knew I had the stakes high. So I mean, that was always the problem with that. And so I needed something to help me. And so the thing to help me was to have an end to the action or a why behind the action. And you're quite right, Guy. You have to say it also the way you're going to do it. So in other words, what I'm doing is digging down more. I'm revisiting my life. I'm going back to my life. And I said to JP, why? And so suddenly he said, for understanding. Well, the for understanding then colored the way that you go back to your life. I mean, I listen, I agree with Teo. Sometimes just asking myself, now, why am I doing this? Not my career, but just by saying, what? So why am I even here? I mean, I think anytime I ask the question why and answer it in an actorly fashion, it helps me. It gives me something. All right, play with that. Play with that idea.
I Don't Need an Acting Class is created and hosted by Milton Justice. Producer is me, Walker Vreeland, and director of online media is Evan Solers. Music is by Jeffrey Keyser, and for more info on Jeffrey's work, you can go to jeffreykeyser.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can find us online, idon'tneedanactingclass.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, and you can continue to send your questions to Milton at questionsformilton@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.